What up, everybody? Grant Wise here. Welcome to our training today. I'm going to be showing you how to use case studies or testimonials to get listings. Hit me up in the chat just by like yes or oh my goodness yes or hell yes, whatever you'd like to say. If you have been trying to figure out how to generate more listings in your market, today I'm going to show you how to create case studies that will really ultimately help you get some good content, good marketing in place that will allow you to start attracting those sellers that might be thinking about it right now, but haven't taken the dive and like really jumped in and gone all in. A lot of what I'm seeing today is that we are communicating the wrong message to the market. All right. I'm seeing real estate agents post every single day. And I've got somebody saying they can't hear me. Can everybody else hear me? Is it just the one person? Okay, it looks like everybody can hear me. Okay, good. I'm seeing real estate agents post every single day. Home sold 20,000, 40,000, 60,000 over asking in 4 hours. Blah, blah, blah. We had to compete with, there were 80 off, like whatever. There's all of this communication happening in the market. And there's a couple of things wrong with it. One is we're actually scaring sellers off by communicating this way, because what we're saying is there's a lot of competition. Okay. And that's not actually a good thing, because what's happening in sellers right now is they're reading these messages and they're saying, okay, well, I may be able to get a ton of money for my house, but where am I going to live? If the market's so competitive, how am I going to be able to buy another property? What if I can't compete against all these other people? What if, right? And so we're bringing a lot of scarcity, fear into the market the way we're communicating the message. And this is creating a huge problem, because sellers are basically said, okay, well, if the market's so crazy, I'm just going to stay right here, because I would assume that if the market's this good right now, it's going to be good later. I'll just wait till inventory opens up. And it's happening in every state. It's happening in every market. Inventory is at all-time historical lows, but you have in a whole industry communicating the wrong message to the market, so people don't want to move. Now, there's a couple of things wrong with this. First of which is the fear we're creating in the market, where people don't want to take this step to move because they don't think they're going to be able to buy a property. Bad. Second thing is that the way you're communicating the message is you're telling people what's happening. And I've talked about this quite a bit in the last month. I think it's Tony Robbins, yes, that says if all the media did was just inform you, they could never get your attention. And so what we're all doing in the market right now is we're informing people what's happening. We're just telling them what's going on. And we're not inviting them in to experience it. One of my favorite theories is something called narrative transportation. I learned this from Donald Miller and Dr. J.J. Peterson of the Story Brand podcast. Would encourage anybody to go look that up. They changed the name to the Business Made Simple podcast. But Donald Miller wrote a great book on narrative transportation and their process for telling stories. And I want to read you guys a definition. And then I want to show you some compare and contrast versus what's happening in the market right now. So I'm actually going to read this so you get a good definition. And it says narrative transportation refers to the concept where a person is placed into and immersed in the world of a story, a narrative. This term also implies that once a person is lost in the story, so to speak, then not only do their attitudes reflect the story, but their intentions do so as well. In narrative transportation, the transportation aspect refers to several things, okay? First, the creation of mental imagery surrounding the story. Second, losing awareness of one's surroundings. And third, an emotional reaction to the narrative. Now, if you will take a step back, let's take our business hats off for just a second. Let's put our movie hats on, okay? Have you ever watched a really good movie? Show of hands. See some hands going up? Yes, we've got some people that have watched a really good movie. Well, when you watch a really good movie, typically what's happening in your mind is the story is being told so good that you actually feel like you're living inside of it. And in a movie theater, which is why the experience is so great, you see stuff, you hear stuff, you feel stuff. And if you pay attention to movies, they're always constantly describing the way things smell, the way things taste, what people are seeing. And it's to tie into these three things. It's trying to give you imagery, context to what the narrative is or what's happening in a specific scene, and therefore transporting you, making you feel like you're actually a part of it. So when somebody tells a really good story, you typically get lost. Has that ever happened? Another show of hands. Has anybody ever heard a really good story and just get lost, like lose all track of time? Nothing else matters. You just hear a good story and you're like, you feel like you're living in it. This is why this happens. And we've seen this now as I've really studied narrative transportation over the last couple of years. I've started to see this everywhere. And unfortunately, more so in politics. But when somebody believes a story, there is nothing you can do. There's virtually nothing you can do to convince them otherwise. And that's why I'm making the connection to politics. Is we saw in politics where you have these sides and you have these narratives, and those typically aren't the same. But when somebody believes a story, it's so profound, it's so real, it's so, it to them, there's no logic, there's no fact, there's literally nothing you could say that would convince them otherwise. And sometimes this takes years to undo. And I've seen it in families. I've seen it in my family. I've seen it in relationships. I've seen it in business. I've seen it everywhere. But the reason I tell you guys this is because I want you to understand the transformative power of a story. If you're informing somebody, right, you're just giving people information, you're giving them data to process. And this is what's funny is you're making their brain work too hard. They don't think about what you're saying and they move on. Okay. Whereas if you can tell a really good story, you make the person feel like they're actually living in it. And this has profound effects. So now that you understand, and if you don't understand, if you have questions about narrative transportation and that concept of telling a story, now that you know what I'm talking about, I want to compare contrast here. I'm going to tell you two things. I'm going to share two stories with you. Okay. So story number one, or just, it's not even really a story, but fact number one, if you will. I just sold this house for $20,000 over list price in 2 days. That's what everybody's posting in the market right now. I just sold this house. Nobody cares about you, like, at all. You got to understand that in marketing. Like, anybody could care less. I just did a thing, $20,000 over whatever. This is what's happening in the market. This is currently the narrative. We're just spewing information. It's literally just this highlight reel, this vanity highlight reel. Nobody cares. Like, you've got to understand in marketing, nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. They care about what they want, okay, which is an end result. So same thing, okay? Same story, $20,000 over list price, 2 days. Same fact, but in story form. Jim and Nancy were thinking about selling their home to relocate so that they could move near their kids to help raise the grandkids. They were dreaming of cookouts in the yard, the smell of that brand new baby, and all the laughter that they could possibly handle. They were concerned that if they sold their home in this market, they might not be able to find a new home closer to their kids, which would have prevented them from being able to help like they had planned. We worked really hard to list their home the right way, and as a result, we sold their home. As a result, they sold their home for $20,000 more than what they were hoping they could get it for in just a few days. We worked just as hard to find them a new home close to their family. We put in a strategic offer. And because they earned so much from selling their home, more than they thought, they were able to be competitive when buying a new home. In just under a week, we were able to sell their home and help them buy a new one. They've already started planning their first cookout. Now, there's a story. Same set of facts told in a storied format. Now, if you go back to narrative transportation and the aspects of narrative transportation, the creation of mental imagery in the story. If you listen to my story, what were the creation of mental imageries? What were those points? Point number one, cookouts in the yard. Point number two, the smell of a brand new baby. Point number three, all the laughter, right? I can see it, I can hear it, I can touch it, I can feel it, right? We're gathering all the senses, but we're creating mental imagery. When we tell a story this way, people lose awareness of their surroundings. Now, why that's important is when you're telling a story in your market and somebody's listening to this, they're watching it, they're reading it, if it is relevant to them, which in many cases it can be, they feel transported. They, for a second, for a moment, as they're listening to this play out, as they're reading what you've written, they lose focus. We've created a mental picture, and people have lost the awareness of where they are. They just get literally taken back by reading or watching the story. And then there's an emotional reaction, or can be an emotional reaction, typically, which there's a happy ending. We were able to do this, so they were able to do that. They've already started planning their first cookout, right? There's a happy ending to the story. So there is some form of emotional reaction. Now, if somebody was reading the story or listening to it, and they were grandparents, and they wanted to be closer to their kids, how do you feel like that would trigger them emotionally? Okay, that's the idea, is that we shift the narrative. We can say the same thing, we just got to say it a different way. This is crucial, because right now what's happening in the market is we're just going out there and spewing information, and we're dropping knowledge and whatever, but we're not actually telling people what's happening, or more on point with what narrative transportation is. We're not inviting them in to experience what's happening. And so what I want to challenge you to do is to stop telling people what you're doing. As rude and blunt and as, I guess I probably shouldn't be that way, but just as direct as I can be, nobody cares. You've got to understand this. In marketing, nobody really cares. People want to feel a part of something. They want to experience something. And so what we want to do is we want to shift the way that we're talking about this. So start inviting people into an experience. Okay? Just, if that's the takeaway, start inviting people into an experience. And so if you're sitting there and you just sold a house and you remember what I said, okay, you'll ask yourself that question, okay, how do I invite people into an experience? The only thing that you could possibly do is is tell a story and create an experience for somebody to have that might be watching it. So the reason I wanted to teach you that first is because when you're getting testimonials, what I call a case study or social proof, when you're getting a testimonial from somebody, there's a very strategic way to get the testimonial so that the buyer or seller shares their story, and it can serve as an invitation for whoever's watching it to experience what that person is experiencing. Okay. We all know that the market's crazy right now. And if somebody sold their home, they could net out a significantly larger portion of money than they probably typically would. That's true. We all understand that. And what we're telling people is, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. But we're also adding on this tagline: there's no inventory, multiple offers, mad competition. Stop talking about this. You're only creating scarcity or fear in the seller. Okay, let's invite people to experience what's happening in the market where they've got this massive upside, and then let's affirm to people that we will be able to help them purchase a new property. Let go of this narrative that there's no inventory and this and that and the other thing. It's not a good value proposition. It's not a good way to get attention. So now, let's say, for example, we've sold a property and we want to get a testimonial so that we can use that to get another listing. That's what case studies or testimonials will do. They'll help you sell other people on moving forward, but we got to do it specifically. So I have 5 questions here. 5 questions. Question number 1. If you were interviewing a seller or you sent these questions to a seller, these are the 5 questions that you want them to answer inside of the testimonial. If they get it with their phone, great. If you got a videographer and they're shooting this at the closing table, great. It really doesn't matter to me, but these 5 questions are really important. Question number 1, why were you looking to sell your home? And if you go back to my story, Jim and Nancy were thinking about selling their home so they could relocate to be closer to their kids to help raise their grandkids. Why? That's powerful. Create a connection. Tell a story, right? They were dreaming of cookouts in the yard, smell of that new baby, and all of the laughter they could handle. Okay, we've got the why component. Now, what was your biggest hesitation about selling your home? If a seller was answering that question, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a hurdle that they needed to overcome. And if you will remind me, I'll share with you the hero's 2 journeys in a moment, which is another story theory. Some of you may already know it. But we want to have this obstacle that they had to overcome. Now you can ask these 3rd and 4th questions interchangeably. 3rd question, what made you decide to hire me to help you sell your home? Question number 3. Okay, now you're getting into referral territory. Here's why I did it. Was I able to help you overcome your biggest hesitation and sell your property? Now, in the beginning of somebody creating a piece of content about you or a video about you, sharing their experience, they would have mentioned what the biggest hurdle they thought would be. And then this is what's cool, is you get to show up as a guide and help that person solve that problem. Now, notice I said the word guide. It's going to be important when I explain the hero's 2 journeys. I said the word guide. Okay, that was the 4th question. 5th question, what would you say to somebody that was thinking about letting me sell their home? So, boom, direct. Yes, if you're going to do this, you got to use this person. So recapping the questions, why were you looking to sell your home? What was your biggest hesitation about selling your home? What made you decide to hire me to sell your property? Was I able to help you overcome the big hesitation and sell your property? What would you say to somebody who was thinking about letting me list their property? Obviously, this is a lot of seller-oriented stuff, but that's who we're after right now. A lot of these questions can be adjusted for buyers too. Now, stepping back from these questions for just a second, there is a theory. It's called the hero's 2 journeys. And if you'll pay attention to this, you'll start to notice it's the basis for every movie basically ever created. And the hero's 2 journeys is really, journey 1 is the journey of accomplishment. So in a movie, typically somebody has something they're setting out to accomplish. They have something that they want to achieve, right? You've seen a lot of movies that way. Or the movie starts at the end where there's this big climactic scene, and then before you can really understand what's going on, it like transport back to 2 years earlier or whatever, right? So there's something that somebody wants to accomplish. And then there is the journey of transformation. In all of the best movies that there are, at some point, there is a guide that shows up, a mentor, a coach, somebody that helps the person transform a love character, a spouse, partner, whatever. There is somebody that shows up as a guide and helps the person transform. And typically, as the storyline plays out, the person stops even caring so much about whatever it was that they were going to accomplish, and we all fall in love with who it was that they became. So even if they win, they lose, we fell in love with this person's journey of transformation. Okay. What I'm saying when we look at these questions, as I've broken them out, what was your biggest hesitation in selling your home? And was I able to help you overcome it? What we are really looking at is these stories playing out. And I know I'm explaining something that's very specific, but this is what we feel as we're kind of just living our lives. We have, if you go back to my story, Jim and Nancy want to sell their home so they can relocate to be closer to their kids. They have something that they wanted to accomplish. And at some point, a guide shows up, i.e. you, and helps them achieve whatever it is that they're trying to. And if you look at these two story theories, you want the character to be the hero. You simply want to be the guide. What a lot of real estate agents are doing right now is playing the hero role in these stories. I did this. I sold this house. I did it for 20K we're asking. I did it in record time. Me, 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 me. They're playing the hero in the client's story. And what we want to do is we want to pivot, and we want to be the guide in that person's story. If you go back to this whenever it's over and you rewatch it and you listen to my story again, you will hear how the really Jim and Nancy got to play the hero role for their kids, and that at some point a guide showed up and helped ensure that it was going to happen. When you're telling stories, you got to understand that if you position this the right way, not only will people feel transported by the stories you're telling, which will really make selling kind of effortless because they will want to experience what your clients experienced, but it will also position you as a guide, allowing them to be the hero in their own story. This is really profound with buyers. Like a really profound example would be like a single mom that wanted to buy a home but had credit issues, or this, that, and the other. Like, that's just a very compelling story. And then at some point a guide showed up and allowed the mother to be the hero in her own story to, accomplish the American dream, provide a home for her family. Like, that's a really profound thing. So my whole point in all of this is that you can't just go out there and create content, at least you shouldn't, that just tells people what's happening. You want to do so in a storied format. And if you'll understand what happens psychologically to people as they hear stories, and if you will understand what roles they play and what roles you play, your content, the stories you're telling, the testimonials you're putting out will take off. And those will be the best sales tools you ever have. All of us read reviews before we buy products. I don't know anybody that doesn't. I mean, there's those, what do they call those purchases? Like if there's like $2 purchase at the cash register or whatever. I can't remember what they call those. But for the most part, if we're discovering new products and services and those types of things, we read reviews. The only problem in real estate is that reviews don't necessarily seem to be at the forefront of most people's businesses. And they are, without question, one of the most important sales tools that exist. So when you create content, do it in a storied format, understand what's happening, the people that are watching this content, what's going through their brain, and create such a story that they feel transported in a way that they want to experience it themselves. And if you'll do it the right way, you can play the guide, and the buyer or seller can play the hero. And I know I'm really hitting a bunch of stuff, and there's different elements of this, that I'm trying to bring in here to prove a point, which may be confusing. And I hope you'll ask questions. But if you'll learn how to tell stories, I guess my point is your content will perform so much better. The people that are watching these videos will be sold on doing business with you, and growing and scaling and all those things that I know you all want to do will feel very seamless and effortless. And right now, in this moment, if you'll tell stories the right way and you will invite people in to experience it, i.e. invite sellers in to experience what's happening, you will notice that more and more sellers will start to jump off and want to do business with you because you've positioned everything the right way. And that's really important. Before I move on, I just put 25 minutes of content out there. I want to make sure that everybody understands this. So I want to take just a second. If you have questions, now is the perfect time. Raise your hand, unmute yourself, ask a question, put it in the chat, whatever you would like to do. I want to answer some questions. Okay, so I got Yvonne. You can unmute yourself if you'd like. Yep.
Yes, if you can just repeat question number 4 again.
Sure. It was I able to help you overcome your biggest hesitation and sell your home?
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, put it in the chat. How do you collect video testimonials? That's a great question. Typically, if it were me, I would have a videographer that followed me around everywhere. I would document every interaction I had with the buyer or the seller. And I would turn that into a little 1 to 3 minute kind of mini movie, mini documentary. And I would get the seller to, share their story, share their experience. And I would turn it into a little mini movie, mini documentary. Most people don't do that, but if you have that ability, that's what you should do. Second, which is next case scenario, I would do it at the closing table and just make it a part of the process. Everybody always says, well, how do you do it without making it feel weird? Well, stop making it feel weird. You can stop making it feel weird by the way you ask the question. Some people are like, well, I know this probably isn't what you want to do. Okay, well, hey, no, I don't want to do it. I know this probably isn't what you want to do, and maybe you're afraid of the camera. Oh, okay, well, here's 2 emotions. I don't want to do it, and now I'm afraid to do it. Come on, guys. But can you help me maybe create a testimonial video? Would you share your experience? And then you get these people on camera, and they look like deer in the headlights because they're freaked out, and this is something you don't want to do. This is how everybody that asks me how to get testimonials describes how they try to get testimonials. Stop doing that. Okay, make it a natural part of the process and be excited about it. Be energetic about it, and don't make it weird. Here's an example. Jack, Susan, we just closed on your house. This has been an incredible experience. And the last step to closing day is just documenting it. So my camera guy's here. We're going to sit down for just a second. And you can do it here at the house. And we are going to just share your experience and what this process was like. I want this to be an incredible memory for you. And I want to make sure that you always have this moment. Are you ready? Like, don't make it weird. Be energetic. Make it a part of the process. That's an assumptive close. I'm not even assuming you're going to say no, like we're doing this. Don't make it weird, and other people will stop making it weird. Yes, nobody likes to be on the camera. I can't even get some of you to turn your cameras on and we're doing a Zoom meeting. Like a lot of you are hiding. I understand not everybody likes to be on the camera, but if you will change the way you're asking the question, you probably will be shocked at how the answers to those questions change. At the closing table, we're doing this. At the house, going back, we're doing this. Make it a part of the process, and other people will stop making it feel so weird. That's what I would do. I've done them when we do the walkthrough, when we have finished it. That's great. That's absolutely great. Can you build a story environment with written testimonials? Robert, I don't know if you can, well, you can't see my screen. I'm going to put the story, I'm putting it in the chat section right now. I wrote that story down. I just made it up, but, oh, well, it's not sending. So give me a second. Okay. Robert, to answer your question, yes, you can write really good stories. You know these people, you know why they wanted to move. If you know the answers to these questions that I gave out in this training, you can write a story that's really good. Now, if somebody's just giving you a review, it's a little harder. But what I do is I send people the questions I want them to answer in the order I want them to answer them. And then typically, boom, they write a review for me that is exactly like I want. Kim, I've repeated the questions quite a few times. I'm just going to paste them in the chat so everybody can have them. Sorry, I'm not trying to avoid doing it, but there's the 5 questions in the chat too. So if you guys want to copy and paste them. So yes, you can absolutely get somebody to do it in a storied format. That's all I did. I literally took my own questions and then I wrote a story with made up characters. That's how I did it. So if you have any problems, just let me know. And typically, if you ask somebody for a review, send these questions. Like, hey, can you leave me a review? I'm going to send you a few questions. If you'll just write out and answer it, I would love, that would be amazing. But you guys, I'm not going to say get away from written reviews. Get video. Like this, there's nothing more important than you getting somebody on camera talking about their experience with you. The written stuff's okay, but this video content is liquid gold for your business, because if a seller is thinking about hiring you sees a video and they watch it and they hear the story, like if you do all this stuff right, you won't have to sell anybody. These videos will sell everybody for you. Written reviews are cool. Great. We just live in a different time period, and that content is so important. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. You're welcome. Welcome. Can you? Yep. Done. Okay. Now I'm going to move on. We're running out of time. Last question becomes, hey, how do I get the videos? I hope I explained that. How do I market this? Okay. So what you want to do is you want to create a video 1 to 3 minutes long. And then you want to take that piece of content, that video. Now, if you have a Whitley account, which I hope you do, we would upload the video to Whitley, write a little something about it, our ad copy, and we would target that video to people in either our sphere of influence, our new leads, our Facebook page, Instagram remarketing audiences, all the audiences that we typically teach you to create inside of the platform. You would take the video and you would target market it for $1, $2, $3 a day in ad spend to those audiences. What this is going to do is it's going to essentially be an ad on Facebook. So if somebody was scrolling Facebook or Instagram, they would see an ad that would be this video testimonial playing out. What you want is that your sellers or your buyers, whatever way you structure it, you want them to see this content nonstop and as many of these videos as you can get. But you want to take that content, spend $1 to $3 a day, literally pennies, and promote it to everybody in your sphere, the new leads in your business, the page followers, the Facebook, Instagram page followers, whatever. You want everybody in your network to be seeing this content from you. And if you can do that, if you can tell a good story, you can get it on video, and you can promote this to people, especially leads that are coming into your business or just sellers in the market, you will be amazed at what happens, because the whole narrative will have changed, and you will have successfully invited people in to experience it. Stop telling people what's happening in the market. Stop listing your resume on Facebook. Nobody cares. And most importantly, the people that are thinking about hiring you, like, they do not care about what you've done. What's in it for me radio. I don't know if everybody's ever heard that, but people only care about what you can do for them. They only care about the experience you can create for them. So stop talking about yourself. Let it go. Don't make any of this stuff about yourself. You play the guide. Make everything about your clients. 1,000%. 1,000%. Can we do a Zoom call with the clients, ask them the same questions? Yes. 1,000%. I do it all the time. That would be another way that you could do that, is you could ask your clients if they would be open to doing a Zoom call and ask them these questions. Targeted ads, Facebook, Instagram, through Whitley. If you have a Whitley account, if you don't, you would just try to do that through Facebook. And then the second is the organic approach, which is on top of promoting it, you want to share in an email the testimonial story, share a link where people can go watch it, upload it to YouTube, put it on LinkedIn, anywhere you put out content, email, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you put out content, you want to post this video so that people can watch it. But from a strategic standpoint, getting the story, getting the video, and then I'm targeting it or promoting it to potential sellers. That's the idea. And then in doing that will allow you to create a lot of content, invite people into an experience, to experience what's happening, and ultimately allow you to shift the narrative in your market and generate a ton more sellers than your competition. That's how you use testimonials to generate listings. Any other questions? I would love to answer them. I hope you guys got a ton out of this training. I know some of this stuff is kind of nerdy, but understanding story and understanding these theories and understanding narrative transportation, I think these are all really crucial things. If you want to be a top producing real estate agent, you have to be a really good marketer. Sorry. Like it's a part of the process. And you can be great at sales, but if you fail on the marketing front, you're just going to be on the phones all the time. So if you can get really good at marketing, which is telling really good stories, you will be blown away. You'll be shocked at what will happen to your business and where it will take you. But in this market, you'll be shocked at how many sellers start raising their hand and saying, hey, call me, please. I want to talk. And that's what my hope was from this training, is that you could walk away with some really, really good stuff. If you'll get good at this stuff, it'll change your life. I promise. Great info. Thank you so much, Lynette. Great info, takeaways. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate you all. Great ideas. Thanks for sharing. Okay. If there's no questions, we're going to go ahead and end our training for this week. Next week, I believe we got some more good trainings coming for you. I'm going to show you how to do some more cool stuff. I'm thinking next week, we're going to be doing some training on how to convert leads on social media, like on Facebook and on Instagram, like how to actually convert people into relationships with you. So I'm excited about that. But hope you got a ton of takeaways from this. Do me a favor. First, go implement this in your business. Second, teach this to somebody else. One of the greatest ways that you will really learn and understand how to do something is to teach it to somebody else. So I just want to challenge you to go do this in your own business and go teach somebody else how to do it. And not only will you have great success, but you'll feel very good helping somebody else become successful. So I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. I appreciate you so, so much. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.